BYD overtook Tesla as the largest seller of EVs in the world, and I just have to say, who cares? Hello everyone and welcome back to the China EV show. I'm your host Toby as usual. Before we start, don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Now today, I'd like to talk about the big news that everyone's getting very excited about, which is that BYD overtook Tesla as the largest seller of EVs in the world in Q4 of 2023. And this is why it's not that big a deal and why Tesla probably won't care very much. So here are a few things we need to consider about this news. The first one being that BYD, as we know, sells the vast majority of its cars in China, whereas Tesla, with the exception of the China market, is the best-selling EV brand around the world. It sells 25% of the EVs in Europe. Its Tesla Model Y is the best-selling EV in a number of markets, including China, so much so that the Tesla Model Y actually became the best-selling vehicle in the world for 2023, not just electric, but including ICE. So that's great. Even here in China, the biggest EV market in the world, Tesla are sometimes attributed to creating the spark for the growth of the China EV industry. The Chinese government brought them here in 2019 when they allowed them to build their Shanghai Giga. And this was the kind of impetus, the kind of spur for domestic brands, for homegrown brands to kind of step up. And now we can see where the market is. Now we can see where the industry is in China. So they have a lot to thank Tesla for in that regard. Although funnily enough, a price war which Tesla began in 2022 ended up in BYD actually gaining more market share than Tesla. And I think this is where BYD's strength lies, in creating affordable, very, very high value proposition vehicles for the average consumer. What do you think? Do you think BYD deserves to be in the position it's in? Do you think it's earned its place as the biggest seller of EVs in the world? Or do you think this label is a little bit confusing? But I'm a fan of BYD, and here is why you should love BYD. BYD are trying to bring affordable EVs to the world everywhere. Right now, they are very successful in bringing affordable cars to people in China, and they want to do the same thing to Europe, to America, to other markets. Affordable, cheap EVs to increase adoption rates. For me, this is very key. Adoption rates are kind of increasing around the world, and Europe especially, but people need to get behind wheels. People need to have more experiences with EVs in order to win them over. And one way this is being done is EV as a second car, which I think is a very important concept. People aren't willing to make the leap and cut themselves off from gasoline entirely, but they are willing to try an electric car as a second car, especially in some places where the infrastructure, the transportation might not be great. I think to have this gasoline option puts people at ease. But at the same time, people who live in cities, they can use an electric car as a runaround. They can use it for going to the shops. So the marriage of both is great. And it's a great way for EVs to get their foot into the door and to show people that they are a worthy proposition and they are worth considering. If we consider the BYD Dolphin, this is almost a perfect example of this. A kind of cheap, small hatchback. Doesn't have amazing tech, doesn't have amazing autonomy or amazing battery, but it definitely has a lot to offer people. The only issue is now it's priced quite high, and I think it's a bigger investment, a bigger leap for people to take. It requires more trust, and I don't think BYD has this in the European market, at least yet. What do you think of BYD's cars like the Seal and the Dolphin and the Atto 3 in Europe? Are these cars you would consider buying, or do you think they're still too expensive to consider? Let us know in the comments below. I think if the prices were lower, people would be more willing to take the chance. And as we know, BYD have a vertically integrated supply chain in China. They have their own batteries, they have their own shipping companies, they have their own mines. But the question is, how can they translate this to lower costs in the European market? We heard recently, you can look at my video above, that they're planning to open a factory in Hungary. Maybe this is the first step. Maybe this will help them to reduce costs and increase trust among buyers. Let's see about that. In addition, cars like the Dolphin, they have a lot more tactile buttons. In a way, they're kind of built in a way that's similar to a more traditional car. And I think in this way, it's more easy for adoption rates. Teslas are very techy, and for some perhaps middle-aged, elder people, there's a lot to ask. So what's the point I'm trying to make with my video today? That is, congratulations to BYD as the biggest seller of EVs in the world. However, this doesn't mean much unless your sales are spread out across different markets in the world. But I think BYD can break these markets. I think it's going to take time. Tesla's in a great position, and Tesla has kind of brought EVs to the world. And now BYD can be the brand to bring more affordable and cheaper EVs to the world, and hopefully increase competition, increase adoption rates, and make everyone in Europe at least willing to try an electric car. Okay, that's it for today, folks. Thanks for watching. And if you like the content, give us a like. Let us know your comments below, and I'll see you next time on the China EV Show.